with that, why don't we jump into things here? So, purpose. A recent Harris poll said that 84% of employees would not work for an employer or a company that didn't have a purpose. So that shows you right then and there that it's pretty critical as far as attracting and retaining talent, that a company should have purpose. And not only should it have purpose, but it should activate that purpose. It might be helpful to first of all lay the groundwork or a framework, which is to see what's the difference between a mission and purpose. Oftentimes people confuse the two. So a mission is really kind of I like to think it's an old school form of purpose. It's really the what of the company, kind of descriptive of what the company does, perhaps wedded with a little bit of forward-looking ambition and aims as far as what the company hopes to achieve. And then the purpose is really the lifeblood of the company. It's the heart of the company, the humanity of it. And it's really like, what does the company want to do to actually change the world beyond delivering products and delivering a profit for its shareholders? It's really getting into more of a stakeholder mentality. Going back to that Harris poll, the top sort of things in a workplace that people wanted were work-life balance and a good, reasonable salary and compensation, and nested right up there was purpose. So it's top of mind with a lot of folks these days. Now, how do you activate your purpose? That's really the whole thing. So employees want to work at a company that has purpose, but some have purpose and don't do much about it. It's just there as like window dressing, and others really work towards that. So you hear terms like impact. That's one way of activating and measuring what you do around your purpose. ESG, which stands for environment, social, and governance. That gets used by investors, and it's also another framework for looking at how you activate your purpose as a company. So at our firm, we've been involved with impact and purpose for an awfully long time, and on the activation front, here's just one way that we would do it. One of our key focus areas is gender equality. And while I can't change my gender, I can dictate the gender of the panel that we're having today. So I decided it was going to be all female. You don't necessarily see that oftentimes. So I'm really excited to have three very talented young leaders with us today. Woo! So quickly, why don't we do some self-introductions here? We'll start with you, Kate.
Thanks, Russ. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out. My name is Kate Everett. I'm coming from the College of Idaho, the high impact practice team and the admissions team. So for the high impact team, we're really focused on creating more of a bridge between college and career, so that students have meaningful experiences and are able to find a purpose-driven career after graduation.
Kylie.
My name is Kylie Bolland. I am the general manager of Oscar Brewing, which is kind of transforming into more of an ESG HR role there. Been with the company since we started. This about 6 months before we opened, so about 5.5 years now. And helped us become a certified B Corp last December.
I'm Erica. I created Blueprint Optics, and we're the world's first one-stop shop for sustainable contact lens products. Our first product releases at the end of this month. We're really excited. But most of our mission is centered around redesigning standard contact lens designs to shave off any unnecessary plastic. And we're also a completely cruelty-free brand, which unfortunately is not the standard in the eye care industry yet. So we are a little unique in that area.
Thanks. Kate, we'll start with you and we'll answer the same question here. Who inspired you, or how were you inspired to seek a career in the business of social and environmental impact?
Yes, I think there were little nuggets all along the way from different teachers, professors, but I think the biggest kind of impetus that really pushed me into social impact was a class that I took in college called Social Impact in the Global Economy. And it really just opened my eyes at how, on an individual level, the organizational level, we can have such amazing impact if we're intentional, if we really look at the cause and effect of all of our different actions. And just kind of put this level of responsibility on me to make sure that I was making a difference in the community that I was a part of. So with the high impact practice, that's definitely a huge part of what we do, is looking at Treasure Valley, Idaho, the nation, to make sure we're preparing students to be really creative problem solvers and have a very high impact in the community.
Kylie?
Yeah, like I can't really totally pinpoint. I think it's a bunch of different things. I know one thing for me is I always knew I wanted to help people and just make some sort of an impact. So originally that was like healthcare. I thought I was going to go to healthcare. You can't really think about a physical way to help people other than become a doctor or something. And then realized that wasn't the profession I wanted to go to. So it wasn't actually until really what sticks out is my initial interview with Jake, the owner of Lost Growth, where I realized that you don't have to actually work in a company that strictly makes products or something to benefit people, but it's more about what the company's all about and the why and the purpose. And so it's been working there has really made me realize, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for and wanted. This is the way that I can make an impact.
Erica?
Yeah, I think I actually have the YouTube algorithm to thank, as weird as it sounds. When I was in college, I stumbled across the zero waste movement and a lot of the influencers who were really focused on their individual use of plastic. And while I was in college, a lot of sustainability conversations were going on. I went to college in San Diego. So I started taking classes, and I just got really excited about how much individual impact I could make with the grants that I supported and just the actions I was taking. So from then on, I wanted to focus my career on that, and that's kind of how the rabbit hole started.
Well, you see, you guys are all members of either Gen Z or younger millennials, and your generations have really elevated purpose not only in your lives, but in your careers and the jobs that you're seeking. So why do you think that is? Why are younger generations getting it, perhaps older generations not?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on there. For me personally, kind of coming of age, the first concept I had of America was during 9/11, when I was looking at career opportunities, kind of what I wanted to do with my life. 2008 happened, the political turmoil in previous years, everything that happened with the pandemic, seeing different family members of older generations working in the same industry for the same company for 30 years, barely taking any time off, finally retiring, and then just not seeing really the fruition from that. I think it caused me to do some deeper introspection and really understand where I was putting my energy, my resources, my time into something that I truly cared about, and that in the future I could be helping in some hopefully impactful way to a future that I wanted to see for my own life, for next generations. So I think it was just kind of a little bit of skepticism of just jumping into this larger system that I don't think was fully working for everyone, and just being very mindful of how I want to spend my energy, my time, and my life, really. I'm very curious to hear your answer.
Yeah, when I saw this question too, it kind of took me back. So I was like, this is just the way I've been, but never really thought why. And one thing that stuck out was, I was in college during 2008, and my parents had been working the same job forever, 20 years, and partially due to the recession, lost their jobs and, had to basically start all over. And it kind of just hit me too when I think about it, that I was like, I think Kate put it great when it was like the system doesn't seem to be working the way it is. And to me, I'm kind of more like, if I lose my job tomorrow, I want to make sure that I still take away something positive from it. So I either, felt like I made an impact, learned a lot along the way, and just felt like I got a lot more self-worth. And part of that can be a little bit unhealthy, placing a lot of self-worth into your business or work. But I think that's what really stuck out, is that I was like, if I lose my job tomorrow, I want to make sure that I can leave happy and know that I made a difference and made an impact. I think the other reason too with our generation is social media. Like I think you're constantly seeing, you know, and as we're seeing the effects of climate change, we're seeing all these social issues. It's, you know, in our like every single day, so it's impossible not to care. And I think that's what really we want to see out of businesses and our employers is that like you need to care too. Like this is huge. Like, and I think generations prior, you know, you weren't seeing that all the time. And all of those issues didn't exist, and it just wasn't right in your face. So I think social media is a big part of it too.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I saw this question, I wrote down a similar thing. With social media and access to news all the time, we're seeing all these issues pop up, and it's triggering these passions that we have over and over every day. And a lot of positions are opening up in companies as well to combat the issues or make impact and strides in there. And I think also with the culture of work changing with the pandemic, but even before, and our generation's thinking about how much time we spend at work and the fact that a lot of us work more in a day than we're doing anything else. We want to match all those hours and essentially part of our life's purpose in our work life to combat these issues or make a difference in an area that we care so much about.
So let's personalize that a little bit, which is the role of purpose in a job search. So Kate recently has changed jobs. Erica's had a new job in the not too distant past. Kylie's been at Lost Grove for a while, but where does that fit as far as the attributes you're seeking in a job, and how do you prioritize that in the hierarchy? Kate?
Yeah, I think it's an absolute must. Kind of going back to what I said previously about just being conscientious of my energy, my time, where I want to be focusing kind of my life's work. And yes, I recently did make a change to go back to higher ed because I think education is just such a huge part of planning for the future, making sure that we have clear problem solvers to really tackle these huge societal, environmental problems that we're looking at. So I think for a role that really is just an absolute must for me, that it matches my values and has a clear purpose I can really get behind.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the top. If it wasn't, you know, I think I could work somewhere else and make 3 times as much. But the value of working for a company that prioritizes all these things that I care about is kind of unmeasurable in the sense like that's what I need and that's what I want. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, same. When I just graduated college in May, and when I was looking for jobs, I had that at the top of the list, environmental impact, social impact, and I found that a lot of positions were opening up and also with very comparable salaries too. So I think it's at the top of the list, like Russ said, 84% of people, and people wanting to match those hours with the passions they care about. But also just feeling like they made a difference at the end of the day, I think gives people energy and motivation.
So all 3 of you have either worked at or currently work at a certified B Corp, which is a certification process for companies where they go through a rigorous assessment of their social and environmental impact. Probably have about 15 here in Boise. So tell me, what's it like to work at a B Corp? How's that different than working at another company? Kate?
Yeah, I was just previously working at Salt, amazing company here based in Boise. And I think that was a huge, when I was job searching 2 years ago, I was looking at the 16 B Corps that you do have in the region. And it's just you can speak with such authority as a B Corp because you do go through this very rigorous assessment. And there's so much trust that as an employee you have in the company that they really do care for you as a person, that they care about the impact that they're making. And I'm so excited that the movement is growing within the state and then globally as well. I think it's what consumers want. I think it's what business owners want. There's a huge economic engine behind B Corps that we're just now beginning to tap into. So I'm excited about the future of the movement and see where it's headed.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is working for a company that made it public that they're working towards these things. And, you know, becoming certified B Corp, I was even a little nervous when we were announcing it, because I'm just like, oh gosh, like we're telling the world that we're doing these things, Boise that we're doing these things, but, and then so it holds us accountable. And so working for a company where it's like, we made this commitment, so we have to do it. Like that's a part of it. We want to, and we have to now that we've made this commitment. And so that's what I think is the coolest thing about working for a B Corp is like, you know, we made that commitment, it's holding us accountable, and we're being transparent with our practices. Like and then we tell our, you know, and it comes from our boss too, but like, you know, there's so much stuff we're working on. These are the things that we are doing. And then with goal setting too, that it's like, these priorities are always going to be at the top and the top things we consider. And just, yeah, so having that commitment, and knowing that we aren't exactly where we want to be right now, but we've committed to getting there. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I just recently am moving into working in movement optics full-time, but have worked at a B Corp full-time until now. And my favorite part about being part of the Boise B Corp group was how tight-knit the crew was, and just wanting to support each other, like eating at a B Corp brewery for your company dinner, or making a giveaway box with your company's products and Salt's Minstrel products. And I was learning so much from other B Corps. Like they would do a new initiative, so we would, okay, let's put that into our plan, and we were just all learning from each other really, really quickly, because you're in this tight little group of people just working really, really hard to do even better. So my favorite part was just learning really, really quickly about what we could implement at all levels. So.
Okay, that tight-knit crew, let's jump off on that one. Idaho specifically, which is all three of you are on the board for Idaho for Good, which is a group of local businesses working together to strengthen companies and their ability to actually work for good here. What do you see as being the obstacles or challenges there, as well as the opportunity? Kate?
Yes, I think the challenges and the opportunities are kind of bundled together. I think people are still, I have to explain what a B Corp is every single week. So I think there's still quite a bit of an education gap of what a B Corp is, what's the movement, how to become a part of it. And I think one of the big opportunities is having more students, young people involved in the movement. And like I said previously, it's such an economic engine that we are just beginning to tap into. So I think helping people understand that, yes, it is a social and environmental impact, and you're like Kylie said, you have this accountability behind being a B Corp. But I think really helping people understand that it's also such a good business move, that it really just makes sense to become part of this movement. Consumers want it. So I think, yeah, we're definitely growing. I think, did you say it was a 30% increase recently for B Corps? Yeah, that just gets me really excited that people are getting on board and see the value.
Kylie?
Yeah, I agree with Kate. It is kind of describing what a B Corp was. It's funny, when we certified in December, and I'm just telling some people this, but everybody was like, congrats on that thing you did. Sounded good. Like, nobody actually knew what it was. Which was fine, like we weren't, you know, yes, you get the PR and marketing out of it, but again, it was just the accountability that we wanted. But I think too, communicating that with other businesses, and you know, you kind of look at the process, and that's what Idaho for Good helps support businesses, for a group of B Corp businesses, but also just businesses in Idaho that just want to do good, basically, to kind of make it in general terms. But I think that people think it's going to cost a lot of money. And that it is a big assessment, and it is daunting, but we are still a very small company, and are able to do it without spending a lot of money, just kind of huge things around a little bit. So I think that's the biggest thing, and then, yeah, just, I think people think it's a lot harder than it is.
Totally. I think with Idaho for Good, in itself, the events we throw and what the group actually is, being a group of B Corps, it's pretty new. It's a year old, a little over a year. It's been a little difficult to get the awareness out in the community, but everything we put up has gotten good response from the people who showed they're excited about it, they're thinking about becoming a B Corp, or a whole host of reasons, looking for careers and impact. But just making Idaho for good a household name, I think has been the trickiest part, but it's definitely getting there.
Yeah, just to add on to that too, because I think it's hard prioritizing our goals with the group too, because there are so many things that we see and we can do, we can do better, and we're like, oh, we can start, working with legislation or putting, like there's so many pockets, and I think really narrowing down to what our realistic goals are, like and timelining them out is a big thing, because, I think with companies like us, we just do get really excited about wanting to do all the things, and you can't do everything at once, and that's been kind of a struggle, I think, in the group. So, but.
Yeah, ambition has definitely not been lacking for sure.
Okay, well, we do individual questions here. We'll start with Kylie. We'll go back to that daunting aspect. You led Lost Grove through a very long process to become a certified B Corp. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I just remember my very first interview before I got the job at Lost Grove, that's when I first heard about what a B Corp was and just what we wanted to do as a company. Jake, my boss, had already basically had these goals and about how he wanted to be involved in the community and treat how we wanted to treat employees. Actually, it was one of our investors that was like, have you heard of a B Corp? So he had heard about that recently and kind of got me on it. He's like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want Lost Grove to become. So I started kind of looking at it. I would like to say briefly day one, and then obviously, starting a brand new business, you're kind of running around crazy. I still think after 5 years, we still are new and still doing the same. But so it started probably in 2018, looking at the assessment, and we were starting a business from the ground up. So writing the employee handbook and just having all of our policies and procedures, that was a huge tool, the assessment itself. So I would refer to that and be like, oh, well, you get points for doing this. This is a good thing. So we need to add it into our handbook. And it wasn't until, so I kept, answering questions and working through the 2018, 2019. It actually wasn't until the pandemic where I actually had the time to sit down and finish it. So one good thing that came out of it. So it does take a lot of time and it does a lot of work. But on the money aspect, I was just surprised at how high we were able to score by changing little things we hadn't thought about. And so that's, anybody that's even interested or if you're starting a new business, just have that B Corp assessment, just look through it because it has so many good ideas, and even if it's free to take, so even if you don't actually certify, it just serves as a huge backbone for what our company is and what we do. So that's the biggest thing I stress. Even if you aren't going to certify, just look at it and kind of go through it, engage where you are, and then take notes. Because I went through the whole assessment and then took notes. I'm like, oh, these are things we can easily implement. This is a 5-year goal. This is this. And it just was a huge benefit to helping us create Lost Grove.
Thanks. Erica, your company Blue Pilot Optics is an Idaho benefit corporation. Can you tell us what that is and how it differs from a certified B Corp?
Like Kylie just explained, the B Corp status is an awesome undertaking, an awesome honor, and there's a different ranking called benefit corporation. So it's a little different in that I would say it's quicker than the B Corp status because basically the fundamental part of a benefit corporation is you claim and proclaim your specific public benefit you're making to your stakeholders and your shareholders, so essentially the public. Ours is reducing plastic and animal rights specifically, so that improves Idaho's community and the community around the world. And then we post that on our public website and we make an annual benefit report. And then we're checked with third-party assessment, but it's different than the B impact assessment in that ULAB, the nonprofit, checks your B impact assessment if you want to be a B Corp, and then you pay that fee. The third-party benefit corporation assessment is smaller and it's basically just a small company there's something like Benefit Corporations for Good, and they'll check through and just make sure that this public benefit you're claiming to make, you're actually doing it, and if you need feedback and they don't think you quite hit the mark, they'll give you that as well. But I would say it's really, really affordable, and it's a great place to start if B Corp status seems really far out of reach. Benefit corporations give you that certification, and I think even if a customer doesn't know what a benefit corporation is, seeing a logo or certification of some kind on your packaging will probably indicate to them that you're doing something good. I mean, benefit corporation. So create a good name out of thing to signify that you're making an impact. So highly recommend it, and it's pretty quick. You can probably get it done in a month or so. Yeah.
Great. Kate, you probably already answered the question I was going to ask you, so I'm going to switch it up just a little bit for you. Since you have changed from a for-profit B Corp at SALT to working at the College of Idaho, what differences, if any, do you see in the way purpose is activated between the for-profit business sector and the nonprofit higher ed sector? I know you've just been there a few weeks.
That's an interesting question. I think just the scale is a little bit different. I think with SALT, we're really focused on wellness, health, and education in that sense. And for the College of Idaho, I was just listening to the panel yesterday with all the Idaho University and college presidents, learning that only 37% of Idahoans go on to any sort of education after high school. So that could be trade school, any sort of additional education. So in my mind, for the high impact practice, that's we're not preparing enough people to be able to tackle these societal environmental problems that we're seeing if we don't have those highly equipped, open-minded, creative problem solvers. So I think just thinking of the scale a little bit differently, but as far as the dedication of the people to impact the excitement behind having a company, an organization that really resonates with your values, I think it's exactly the same.
Great. We've now entered the zone of the panel where it's Q&A from the audience. So we've got 15 minutes here. Lauren's going to go around with a microphone.
So since I have the microphone, this is the roaming mic where, it's not working, we gotta use this one instead. If the roaming mic wasn't turned off. Thank you. Hello. Is there a button?
Do you want to use mine?
Okay, since I have the microphone, I'll ask the first question. Kylie, for you, you mentioned that when you did the assessment, there were, a couple, simple things that you, maybe not simple, but things you could do. Can you give a couple examples of what some of those things were?
Yeah. One of the questions that gets you a lot of the point on the assessment is committing to paying your staff a living wage. Which you know is more than a minimum wage, and I know our minimum wage is terrible, and we have the tip tax credit too, so we can pay tipped employees even lower than minimum wage. But our thing was, okay, the living wage, let's say, is $17 an hour. I don't know if it's realistic for us to pay every employee, even that gets tips, $17 an hour. But through the assessment, we could commit that they make a living wage. So that was one that was really nice, is that if they don't make a living wage between tips and their hourly wage, then we'll compensate the difference and make sure that every staff is making at least a living wage at minimum. And that was a lot easier for us to tackle than being like, oh, we have to increase our payroll by 30% to make sure that we're meeting this goal. So that was one that really stuck out. Gosh, I'm trying to think now. What other ones? The big thing is they measure just that you get points for just tracking. So that's when I started tracking like our utility bills, our electricity bill, our gas bill. And I have all that information now kind of compiled in my spreadsheet, so that this year, going into the next year, we'll be setting goal setting and actually reduction targets. And so that was the big thing, is just starting to track stuff. And it really, as long as you kind of move it in your workflow, it can take 20 minutes once a month when you get your utility bills in, and that's going to go up too. So there's a bunch of little things like that. Tracking was just a big one. They just asked what you track, and so starting to track basically everything and making sure you're doing that was a way that I didn't realize was a way to get good points and get a ton of information you didn't realize you needed.
Great, thank you. Okay, other questions?
You mentioned that there are 15 B Corps in the area, and that you'd like that to grow. So for businesses who are interested in that, I'm asking for a friend. Should they contact Idaho for Good, the SBDC, is there a coach who will hold them accountable to finishing the process that you said is a bit of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're welcome to come. I don't actually know when the next event is for Idaho for Good, but you'd be welcome to come. There's also Be Better, just started by, actually, you could probably speak to this a little bit better, Kylie, because you work with Ashley.
Yeah, but one of our sales reps started Be Better, which is to help companies certify and kind of be a consultant on there. But yeah, I think Idaho for Good would be a good place to start. And then we have so many of us that are eager to like volunteer our time to sit down with you and look at the first assessment or steer you in a direction of how to do that. But I think that's a good place to start and then connect you with Be Better.
I don't know if you guys all know, but Russ is an icon in the Valley for being the pioneer of B Corps and really starting movement here in the Valley. So I have a question for Russ, and I feel like he really deserves a better introduction.
Unfair.
But what types of resources do you personally provide just with what you've started in your initiatives for B Corps, including your book that you've written?
Oh, wow. Well, I jumped in to the deep end on B Corps a long time ago, so I think there's about 6,500 around the world. We were number 299, and it's just been kind of like, it's been my motivating purpose, which is to help improve lives through the power of social enterprise. So I guess what Cherie says is, basically, I wrote a book called How to Build a Socially Conscious Business. Plug. Thank you, Cherie. But more than that, my door is always open. So I've helped any number of people go through the process, answer questions, connect you to other social entrepreneurs here in the Valley. That's one of the things about Idaho for Good. It's not only for certified B Corps, it's also for those who aspire to perhaps be a B Corp at some point in time, or quite simply, don't really even care about B Corps. They just want to learn how to make their business better through environmental and social impact. So I guess the way I'd answer Cherie's question is that my door is always open to helping, and I've discovered that with everyone else in the Valley who works at a B Corp. Everyone is highly accessible and committed not only to building their business, but to building others' businesses as well.
And a personal thank you to Russ for being our mentor when we went through the impact assessment and were able to get it in our second year because he mentored us, so thank you.
Thank you so much for the inspirational value that you added, because it's about being intentional. But I have a question. Do you have any statistics on B Corp and retention rate? Because I'm with the SBDC and we talk with people all the time about what is your why and value alignment when they're recruiting. So that goes in alignment with the next step of B Corp. But let's talk about retaining your employees and attracting the right ones. Do you have any statistics on that or any comment?
I'll take a quick cut of that. That's one of the opportunities that B Lab, which is the nonprofit that oversees the certification service, hasn't fully seized upon, which is like within the community to figure that out. There's a lot of research far more broadly than that, beyond the B Corp community about retention rates and the ability to attract and what have you. I can tell you from my own experience as an employer, it's been immensely helpful on the hiring front. I never lack for people who, whether they are in Boise or Tampa Bay or what have you, where they're like, I want to work for a B Corp first and foremost, and you're a B Corp and I found you online, so what's it going to take for me to work there? So it's super helpful in that way as far as differentiating your business in the world of talent acquisition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's like Russ on that on recruitment, it's huge. We just recently, earlier this year, opened up a bunch of new positions and really expanded our like core leadership team and got multiple like overqualified candidates. And I think a huge part of it was attributed to our B Corp certification. And then as far as retention goes, that isn't something I've fully like mapped out and tracking yet, but I just know in our industry, it's very high turnover.
Right.
We, knock on wood, have had no trouble. Like we've had our employees stick around, and then if they do leave, we have no trouble filling those positions, especially when a lot of people have been like, we can't find anybody to work, and restaurants are getting hit. Not to be like boasting about it, but it was just really nice to be like, okay, we're doing something right. We are finding quality candidates, and they're staying. And I think a big part of that is attributed to our public values.
When you're talking to new employees or new prospective employees or clients or just people about the business, what percentage would you say understands the concept and the rigor that goes into a social benefit company that you're putting in, and how many do you have to explain it to?
Pretty much have to explain it to everyone. I think that's part of the magic of Idaho's for Good is also finding encouragement within the group of what we're trying to do, not having to explain yourself to the room because people are in it with you and are for you. But I think, it's something that has to be explained almost all the time. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think this year we've seen a lot of the applicants we've got have been because we're a B Corp, so they've at least heard of it or know that it's a good thing. And then kind of during onboarding, we go into more detail about it. And then they're like, oh wow, I didn't realize how much that was. But again, to the case point, it's more our stakeholders or like outside of employees too that we have to do the most explaining to. But as far as how we get a lot of the applicants we get as a part of it is because they knew we were a B Corp.
I think working at Oliver Russell, a lot of times people who were coming to work with us would know a lot about one initiative they were doing because they might personally care a lot about it. Like we put up a full alley of murals of social justice champions this past year, and it triggered a lot of interesting people who love public art or love some of the people who are on the walls, but they may not know about the other initiatives. And I think it was a really cool opportunity, like Casey mentioned, Idaho for Good, just explaining like the overall impact you make as a B Corp and all the areas you're focusing on. So it was a lot of really fun conversations because someone would come in and be excited about something we're already doing, and then we get to talk about all the other things and they would want to be involved in this too. So yeah.
Any other questions?
So this is for anyone in general that can answer this question. So for me, I don't know what's a B Corp. I don't know if you can explain it to us. Because like you are telling us about like the B Corp, and I'm like, what is a B Corp? What is the thing that makes it great?
I'll give it to you. So it is a certification process that companies go through that includes an assessment of their actions in the community, their policies regarding the environment, the way they treat their workers, the type of governance structure they have. And while I'm missing number 5 here all of a sudden, but there's another community, what they do in the community as well, which runs the range from volunteering in the community to donations and what have you. So you go through this assessment, it's about 200 questions long that range you in all of these deals. You have to score a minimum of 80 out of 200 points in order to be certified. The typical company, I believe, that goes through scores like a 55 on it, so you have to have a threshold that's far greater than that. And once you hit B, most companies, when they recertify, use that as a performance benchmark to actually increase their social and environmental impact going forward. You have to recertify every 30 years as far as that. So it's really, for a lot of people, I think, the type of business that leaders want to create so that they have more meaning in their work, their employees have more meaning. And you know, it's interesting to hear Kylie talk about an investor at Lost Grove bringing up the subject of B Corps to Jake, the owner. And oftentimes what we're seeing is investors are now starting to say, hey, B Corp, you need to be a B Corp. Not only is it going to create new opportunities for you, but it minimizes some downside risks going forward as far as the environment goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Kate. So I work in higher education, and we are seeing a mass exodus of people from higher education to private sector for a variety of reasons. So I'm just curious kind of what drew you against the opposite path?
Thank you for the question. So I was very heavily recruited from my previous boss. I worked at Concordia Law School. And sadly, when the law school had to close, I moved into the private sector and found a really great home at Salt. And then my old boss called me, Latanya Keith, and told me about this role focusing on a high impact practice. And she really had to recruit me hard, but I was just very compelled by that responsibility of looking, I think, when we're thinking about these different issues that our community is facing, we have these silos that we set up between government, education, business, and I think that's part of the beauty of B Corp, Idaho for Good, is trying to take down those silos and come up with solutions that everyone's working with, because that's the only way we're really going to be able to solve these larger issues, is working together across industries, across fields. So that's kind of what my personal journey was making the switch, and it's just so exciting to be meeting with students, seeing the amazing research, the amazing internships that they're already doing. It gives me a lot of hope for our state and our nation to see these young people just absolutely doing amazing work.
I think we're just about time.
Any last questions?
I always
What?
have. Go ahead.
One more up
You
here.
ask that.
Was there an inspiration to Idaho for Good? Meaning, did it come from another state, is there a model, or how did that start, I guess?
I can speak to that. So B Corp has what they call B locals. So it's communities that, so technically our goal is to be a B local, but because there are so few B Corps in Idaho, we call it Idaho for Good, to incorporate all businesses that are just trying to go a little bit above and beyond to do something good. But that's kind of what it's done for. We're these B locals. There's a B local San Diego, a B local Atlanta. We just got to be one of the founders of that group. So larger communities have these B Corp specific groups. And so we created Idaho for Good as kind of a stem off of that, but to be inclusive of other companies that are certified B Corps.
And a huge credit to Sheree, who helped really push that into fruition.
Okay, well, great questions and great panelists. Why don't we thank our three for being so inspiring?